Hi, this is Mark from Santa Cruz Software. I'm going to walk you through a brief overview demonstration of Lynker UI. We're in Photoshop. This is one of the 3 Adobe Creative Cloud apps that are supported by Lynker UI free version. Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. So over here on the right, you'll see this panel. This is a view into the digital asset management system or the storage system that you are using with Lynker UI. So you can has the same, if it's a folder structure, you'll have the same folder structure, and you actually now have a window into your DAM that is directly housed inside your Adobe Creative Cloud application. So you can do things like browsing and searching, opening, placing, updating, uploading new versions of assets. Pretty much most of the stuff that you would almost always be doing between the Adobe Creative Cloud app and your storage system. So you can view in thumbnail view here. You can also view as a list view. So whichever one is easiest for you to look at. Let's go to thumbnail view. I'm going to scroll down here to Marcom Services. And we're going to be in this folder here, Headshots. So these are the assets that we're going to be working with. Now I could have also done a search. I had a search by name. I could have searched by keyword, whatever the searching premise is for your particular storage system. However it does its searches, Lynker UI just uses the same native search method of your DAM. You can filter the view by the type of asset, so like a Photoshop file or Illustrator file, JPEG, PNG, what have you, InDesign file. You can also sort by and filter by tags. So if you have tags or keywords, you can also search and filter the view based on those tags. All right, so when you first get into Lynker UI, let's talk about what's up here. You'd be looking at to select which DAM that you would want to be using. So there's a list of the currently supported DAMs up on our website. So here's where you would select that DAM. And you can go back and forth between any of these storage systems, whether it's Adobe Experience Manager and Brandfolder or Box and Dropbox. You can have them all essentially available at any time. So you might have work in progress stored in Dropbox, and then you actually upload the final versions to your digital asset management system. Maybe you can go back and forth between the different storage systems. There's also the preferences. So preferences are where you store things like, well, how big of a thumbnail do I want of my asset? How is my search going to be done? Is it going to be done on a global basis throughout the entire area of my storage system that I'm have access to, or is it context sensitive? In other words, based on the folder and the folders below from which I'm viewing. Lynker UI also stores work in progress assets locally on your computer, on your system. And so you can set up a regular purging of those in progress assets. So after a week, after a day, after a month, or never. You can also specify where that folder is, where those assets are stored locally. But of course, all of your assets ultimately will be stored in the DAM or the storage system. This is just again, in progress or in process storage until you're ready to actually upload it to the actual file system that you're storing. Link Updates is actually a premium feature, so you can upgrade to the premium version of Lynker UI, which would add Premiere Pro and After Effects to the Adobe apps that's supported. But also we have link updates, so meaning between Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign, if an asset that's placed in a particular document or another asset, like an Illustrator file in a Photoshop file, or that Photoshop file with the Illustrator file in InDesign, if any of those assets are updated in one of the other Adobe applications, and then somebody opens up that asset later, then they will either be prompted to whether or not they want to update the updated asset, or whether or not the asset is automatically updated. And again, that's between Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. It's across those three applications, which is unique in the DAM connector space. So we are the only ones who actually allow you to connect all three applications assets. Again, it is a premium feature. Okay, so let's just run through this very simply so you get an idea. So I've done my searching and I've done my filtering, and now I'm ready to actually do some work. So I hover over the asset, and you can see that it tells me in the upper left what kind of an asset it is. So this is a PSD file, this is a JPEG, this is an AI file, an Illustrator file. So what I want to do is then hover over the upper right corner and click on it, and now I can either place or open. So of course I'm going to open up this particular asset, and you can see it's now open. And then I'm going to do a very simple example. I'm going to now place. So place is rather than creating a new asset, it's actually just going to put this asset directly onto the asset that is open. So I'm going to place it. And so one thing you can see, for example, is up here in the Photoshop layers panel, it now has a new layer, which is on top of the background layer, which is this gentleman. And, you know, as in anything with Adobe applications, I can move that asset around. I can move that particular layer object around. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a local save. So do a, on a Mac, it's a Command S, Control S on a Windows machine. And so the first thing you should notice is up here in the Linker UI panel, I now have this red triangle with an exclamation mark on it. What that's telling me is that my asset that I have here locally is now no longer in sync with the asset that I pulled down from my DAM or my storage system. Of course, it is different because it now has a Illustrator object embedded on top of it. So I have actually two choices. I could go up here to this menu and say upload a new asset. So that would basically create a whole new asset up in the storage system. You can give it its name, you can add tags to it, you can say where you want it to be placed. Or in this case, what I'm just going to do is I'm going to just update the current asset. So now it'll create a new version of this asset up in the DAM. You get the progress bar, and then in just a moment what you'll see is the triangle goes away, and if you look carefully down here you can see that that is now has the logo embedded in the Photoshop file. So to show you again, I could just undo what I did, save it back again, locally saved, again, red triangle, says that this asset, now that I have saved locally, is different from the asset that is now the current version up in the DAM, which of course has the logo in it. So I'll just go ahead and update it. And now the thumbnail will get updated, and you can see that the logo has disappeared. So that's a quick overview of how this works. I was using it in Photoshop, but the same behavior happens to work in the other Adobe applications like Illustrator and InDesign. One last thing to note is if you are interested in upgrading to the Premiere version, which adds, again, cross-asset linking between Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign as a premium feature. It also adds support for Premiere Pro and After Effects. And the Premiere version of Linker UI will also get an ongoing set of new features for the future. Okay, And if you have any questions about using Linker UI, or if you have any issues, please feel free to send an email to support@santacruzsoftware.com. Thanks.